For nearly a decade, the 10-speed automatic transmission has been one of the most debated innovations in modern pickup trucks. Developed through a joint engineering partnership between Ford and General Motors, the system promised major improvements in fuel efficiency, acceleration, and towing performance. It quickly became a central component in trucks like the Ford F1, Ford Ranger, and Ford Super Duty. But over time, the story surrounding the 10-speed transmission became far more complicated. Truck owners began reporting harsh shifts, hesitation when accelerating, sudden down, and in some cases even premature failures. Online forums filled with complaints, lawsuits began appearing. Mechanics across North America saw a steady flow of trucks needing transmission software updates or repairs. Now, as Ford prepares its next generation of trucks for 2027, industry insiders say the company has quietly begun rethinking its entire transmission strategy. So the question is unavoidable. Was the 10-speed transmission actually a mistake? And what exactly is Ford planning for its future trucks? According to industry sources, leaked engineering reports, and expert analysis, the answer is far more complex than simply abandoning the technology. When Ford first introduced its 10-speed automatic transmission in 2017, it was seen as a major technological leap. At the time, most pickup trucks still used 6-speed automatics. A few manufacturers had moved to 8-speed systems, but 10 gears seemed almost excessive. However, Ford engineers had a very clear objective: maximize engine efficiency while improving overall performance. More gears allow the engine to stay within its ideal power band more often. That means stronger acceleration, better towing capability, and improved fuel economy. The transmission, internally known as the 10R8, first appeared in the Ford F-150 equipped with EcoBoost engines. Soon after, it spread throughout Ford's lineup, including the Mustang, Expedition, and eventually the Ranger. Heavy-duty trucks received their own version called the 101-401, designed to handle the enormous torque produced by the Power-Stroke diesel engines used in the Super Duty lineup. At launch, the technology looked revolutionary, and initially, it performed exactly as engineers intended. Automotive journalists initially praised the 10-speed transmission for its versatility. Acceleration improved significantly, particularly when paired with turbocharged engine. The transmission could even skip gears when necessary, quickly selecting the ideal ratio for maximum power. Fuel efficiency also improved. According to Ford's internal testing, the additional gears allowed engines to operate at lower RPMs during highway cruising, reducing fuel consumption. Transmission expert Dr. Michael Harrington, a powertrain consultant who has worked with several automakers, explains why the concept made sense. The goal was to create a transmission capable of handling everything from daily commuting to extreme towing loads. More gears give engineers more flexibility, Harrington explains. In theory, a 10-speed transmission can always find the perfect ratio. That flexibility quickly became one of the system's biggest selling points. But as many technologies prove, what works perfectly in theory doesn't always translate perfectly to real-world driving. Within a few years of the transmission's introduction, reports of shifting issues began appearing. Some owners described rough gear changes at low speeds. Others noticed hesitation when accelerating from a stop. In more extreme cases, drivers reported sudden downshifts that made the truck feel jerky or unpredictable. The number of complaints grew large enough that dealerships began issuing software updates designed to recalibrate the transmission's behavior. But software updates didn't always fix the problem. Independent mechanic Jake Reynolds, who specializes in truck repairs in Texas, says many of these problems were not caused by a mechanical failure. In many cases, the transmission itself wasn't broken, Reynolds explains. The issue was how the computer was trying to manage 10 different gears. This created a situation where the truck constantly searched for the correct gear. The phenomenon known as gear hunting became one of the most common complaints among drivers. Instead of shifting smoothly, some trucks rapidly jumped between gears while climbing hills or towing heavy loads. For many owners, this behavior was frustrating, especially because pickup trucks are expected to feel strong, stable, and predictable. As complaints continued to grow, legal action soon followed. Several lawsuits were filed against Ford, alleging that the 10-speed transmission contained design flaws that caused harsh shifting and premature wear. Ford has consistently defended the transmission's reliability, but the controversy still affected public perception. Online truck communities began filling with stories about transmission problems, leaving many potential buyers wondering whether the 10-speed system had simply become too complicated. Powertrain engineer Sarah Coleman, who previously worked in drivetrain development for a major automotive supplier, believes complexity played a role. Every additional gear increases the complexity of the software that controls the transmission, Coleman explains. The mechanical components might be strong, but the calibration has to be nearly perfect. If the software logic isn't tuned correctly, the driving experience suffers. And tuning software for millions of trucks operating in different climates, altitudes, and driving conditions is an incredibly difficult task. Despite the criticism, Ford never abandoned the 10-speed transmission. In fact, the company continued expanding its use across multiple vehicles. Why? Because from an engineering standpoint, the transmission still delivered real advantages. Towing capacity improved, fuel efficiency increased, performance numbers remained strong. Behind the scenes, Ford engineers continued, refining the transmission through new software updates and improved calibration strategies. By the mid-2020s, many of the early complaints had been reduced thanks to better programming. But internally, Ford engineers were already thinking about the next step, and that step may arrive with the company's 2027 truck lineup. According to industry leaks and supplier reports, Ford is preparing a new transmission strategy for the next generation of trucks, rather than completely abandoning the 1.0-speed design. Ford is expected to introduce an updated transmission family designed to address past issues while supporting future engine technologies. The plan reportedly focuses on 3 major improvements. First, engineers are developing smarter shift programming powered by more powerful onboard computers. Second, the company is strengthening internal transmission components to handle higher torque levels from future engines. And third, the transmissions are being redesigned to work more efficiently with hybrid and electrified power. These changes reflect a broader reality. The future of pickup trucks will include both traditional engines and electrified systems. One of the biggest lessons Ford learned from the 10-speed controversy is that software matters just as much as hardware. Modern transmissions rely heavily on adaptive learning systems that analyze driver behavior and adjust shifting patterns. Accordingly, Ford's upcoming transmission software is reportedly far more advanced, using predictive algorithms to anticipate driving conditions. These systems analyze throttle input, road grade, vehicle load, and driver behavior to determine the best gear before the shift even occurs. Transmission specialist Dr. Luis Ramirez, who studies drivetrain control systems, believes predictive shifting is the future. The transmission shouldn't just react to the driver, Ramirez says. It should anticipate what the driver will do next. If implemented successfully, this technology could eliminate many of the shifting complaints associated with earlier versions of the 10-speed. Another major factor shaping Ford's transmission strategy is the rapid rise of hybrid trucks. Hybrid powertrains combine electric motors with traditional engines, which significantly changes how power is delivered to the wheels. Electric motors produce instant torque, which reduces the need for frequent gear changes. Because of this, hybrid powertrains sometimes require fewer gears than traditional gasoline or diesel engines. Ford engineers are reportedly experimenting with transmissions designed specifically for hybrid systems. These designs could allow trucks to rely on electric torque at low speeds, improving smoothness and reducing stress on the transmission. The F-150 PowerBoost Hybrid has already demonstrated how electrification can improve truck performance. Future models are expected to push this concept even further. So is the 10-speed transmission disappearing? Not exactly. Industry analysts believe that 10-speed will remain part of Ford's lineup well into the late 2020s, but with significant upgrades. These upgrades may include stronger clutch packs, improved cooling systems, and redesigned gear sets. Heavy-duty trucks like the Super Duty are expected to keep high transmissions because diesel engines produce enormous torque that benefits from multiple gear ratios. However, lighter trucks may eventually move to alternative designs. Possible options include advanced 8-speed transmissions or hybrid-specific gearboxes optimized for electric assistance. In other words, Ford's future transmission strategy may become far more flexible than the current one-size-fits-all approach for truck buyers. The changes expected by 2027 could bring noticeable improvements. Drivers may experience smoother acceleration, better towing stability, and fewer abrupt shifts. Fuel economy could improve as well, thanks to smarter shift strategies and electrified power. Most importantly, reliability should improve as Ford strengthens the transmission's internal components. Automotive analyst David Keller believes the controversy surrounding the 10-speed transmission ultimately pushed Ford to innovate faster. Every major technological shift has growing pains, Keller explains. The real question is whether the manufacturer learns from those problems And according to Keller, Ford appears to be doing exactly that. The debate surrounding the 10-speed transmission reflects a much larger trend across the automotive industry. Modern vehicles are becoming increasingly software-driven machines. Transmissions, engines, braking systems, and even suspension components now rely heavily on advanced computer control. In many cases, future improvements may come more from software updates than from mechanical redesigns. For manufacturers like Ford, the challenge is balancing technological complexity with long-term durability, because at the end of the day, pickup truck buyers expect reliability above everything else. Final thoughts. So is the 10-speed transmission a mistake? The answer depends on perspective. From an engineering standpoint, the concept was sound. More gears helped improve efficiency, performance, and towing capability. But real-world complexity introduced challenges that engineers didn't fully anticipate. Those challenges forced Ford to rethink how transmissions are designed, programmed, and integrated with modern power. Now, as the company prepares its 2027 truck lineup, it appears Ford is taking those lessons seriously. The next generation of Ford transmissions will likely combine stronger hardware, smarter software, and hybrid integration to create smoother, more reliable trucks. And if that strategy succeeds, the 10-speed transmission may ultimately be remembered, not as a mistake but as an important step in the evolution of pickup truck technology.